Welcome back to our channel, where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news Prince William drops. A bombshell over Camilla's financial scandal violation marked his daring move. According to a person close to the situation, Prince William and other senior royals are meeting in Balmoral to talk about how to structure the monarchy. In this secret meeting, Prince William showed alarming proof that Camilla was using royal funds for her own gain. Camilla is in a lot of trouble because of this. In this video, we'll find out what Prince William did to her and why it surprised her so much. Crown of Deceit. Prince William reveals Camilla's hidden financial empire destroying the monarchy. An unprecedented royal scandal has broken out, sending shockwaves through the very foundations of the British monarchy. The royal rumor mill isn't just humming, it's shouting like a major news story. Prince William, who is next in line for the throne, has publicly revealed what insiders are calling a shocking covert money plan that his stepmother, Queen Consort Camilla, is said to have set up. The claims of secret accounts, secret real estate transactions, and a systematic abuse of the palace's most vulnerable workers have caused a huge uproar in the sacred corridors of Buckingham Palace and Clarence House. The future king's shocking revelation, made with icy anger during a hurriedly scheduled news conference, has shocked both supporters and detractors. It has revealed a web of lies that might damage the crown's reputation for centuries. What made Prince William take such a bold decision that would break up his family? How deep does the supposed financial maze go? And can the monarchy withstand a scenario when a son wants justice against his father's wife? Dive into the gripping drama as we figure out the scandal that will change the royal world forever. The first signs of trouble. The narrative doesn't start with a boom. It starts with a whisper of wrong that developed into a scream. In the quaint Western study of Clarence House, a space that had been a safe haven for father and son for years, Prince William's wrath finally boiled over. The polished wooden desk, which generally stood for order and elegance, turned into a battlefield. He threw down a stack of penalty papers, each one a quiet reminder of what he perceived as a deep betrayal. William's voice was low and tense, and each word was like a precisely placed arrow. "This isn't about discipline, Father. This is theft that has been made a part of the system." King Charles gazed at the papers with an expression of tired worry that was all too familiar. He listened as his son told him the harsh truth, a harsh system of penalties for home help for even the smallest mistakes. A missing fork at dinner, a worried cough during service, or a moment of talking in the corridor all led to deductions from the wages of individuals who could least afford it. Charles, a guy who has spent his whole life dealing with the tricky waters of royal etiquette and public opinion, said he would look into it. He begged William to be quiet. "We can't afford a scandal this big, William," he muttered, his voice heavy with the weight of the crown. "Let me take care of this in private." But Prince William couldn't stay silent anymore. The ghosts of the past haunted the rich halls of his memory. He saw the shadow of his mother, Princess Diana, a woman who had been hurt alone, and finally shattered by the secrets and lies that were hidden beyond the palace's gold walls. He had seen the royal, firm, close ranks putting image ahead of honesty, and he promised himself that he would never do it again. Seeing servants with their heads lowered in dread touched a profound chord in him, one that echoed Diana's own work to help those who were down and out. He couldn't and wouldn't let it go. William didn't listen to his father's request for quiet, and instead chose to become a detective in his own country. He locked himself in a dusty records room, a place where few people ever went on the pretense of reviewing household expenses. He started to look at the cold, hard statistics as he sat in front of piles of ledgers and financial documents. The monotonous spreadsheets, which were full of codes and internal transfers, were like a hard puzzle. He carefully compared payroll deductions to spending records, and a shocking trend started to show up. In only 3 months, these servant penalties had brought in a huge amount of money, over $48,000. He looked for the money's whereabouts. Was it used to take care of the palace, used for training workers and programs for their well-being? The response was a scary no. The official budgets didn't show where a single dime went. Instead, the whole money had been put into a single hard-to-find holding account. He found out that just one person could get into the account after doing some further research: Queen Consort Camilla. His heart raced against his ribs. This was no longer a guess. It was a reality. He took up the phone and contacted the palace's top accountant, a guy who had always been faithful to the palace. The voice of the guy on the other end shook. The accountant said, "It was Her Majesty's direct order, Your Highness," and his voice was full of anxiety. She said the money was for operational improvements, a dedicated fund for enhancements that may be used at your discretion. But no money has been spent from it for any of those reasons. A chilly fire started in Prince William's stomach. This wasn't about making the palace better. It was a well-planned pipeline that took money from the weak. He thought of Camilla making a hidden nest egg and an escape plan, using money from the individuals who worked for her. She was building a life apart from the throne, a future that would not be affected by the vagaries of royal fortune, all on the backs of people who were afraid of her power. He couldn't stop himself any longer. The iron fist comes down. To get the plan, you need to know what stage it was established on. Picture the majestic dining room of Clarence House, which seems like a scene from a fairy tale. The golden chandeliers drip light like molten honey, giving the huge 26-foot table a warm, otherworldly glow. The table, which is covered in creamy silk with shiny gold thread, is a testimony to generations of royal cooking rules. Everything is designed to seem great. The forks are oriented precisely, so the dessert knives are measured to the inch and the water glasses are perfectly lined up. This hall, where King Charles, Prince William, Kate, and their kids used to have nice family meals and laugh together, has changed. The friendliness had been replaced by a cold tension, a quiet fear that was hidden under modern discipline for the royal court. Queen Consort Camilla was the one who came up with this new government. On a hot August night when the family was together, she stood up with the elegance of a seasoned queen. Her voice, which was soft as velvet, yet had an edge as keen as a knife, pierced through the room as she folded her napkin slowly and carefully. She said, "To uphold the flawless image of the British monarchy," and then she introduced what she dubbed the Royal Dining Regulation. Her words were binding on all the servants in the room. Any mistake at this table, like a misplaced spoon, careless talking, the sound of a phone ringing, a cough, or anything else that is considered ugly, will cost you money which will be taken out of your pay. The air in the room became heavy full with unspoken apprehension. Servants who had been standing still along the walls bowed their heads and looked down at the cold marble floor. William and Kate looked at each other quickly and with shock. There was no notice or debate before this order came down like a bolt from the blue. It took effect right away. Camilla sat down with a faint, knowing grin on her lips. She was the queen who had quietly won the first battle in a castle constructed on terror. That night, the first fracture in the meticulously planned strategy showed up. Young Marion, a timid new servant who had just moved to London from Yorkshire following a family tragedy, was serving the main meal. Her fingers shook as she opened a bottle of sauce, and a little drop fell onto the edge of Princess Charlotte's plate. The family didn't see the little mistake since they were too busy talking, but Camilla's hawk-like eyes spotted it. "Write it down," she said, the head butler, in a cold voice without even looking at the scared girl. Marion spotted a fresh envelope in her locker later that night. There was a note inside that said $50 fine, violating the sauce protocol. She felt like her heart was about to break. She was supposed to use the $50 to buy medicine for her sick mother. In the dark staff quarters, people started to murmur about their rage and sadness. And Senior Footman snarled to a co-worker, They docked me $80 last week for not pouring tea properly. At this rate, we'll all be broke by Christmas. The penalties kept coming down like a never-ending rain. Within weeks, 4 longtime employees, including the children's beloved nanny Agnes, disappeared without a trace officially relocated, following a little mistake with a side dish. It was apparent what the message was: no one was safe. William's life changed as he was getting ready for a state supper for a French delegation. He saw Oliver, a professional wine steward, carefully setting up the glasses. Camilla came in and looked at the table with an angry look in her eyes. She said that one glass was out of place by less than 2 inches. Days later in the echoing hall, Oliver dropped a silver cloche by mistake. It produced a big noise, but nothing bad happened. But he lost $160, which was almost a week's pay for the mistake. Oliver took a gamble that no one would have thought of. Late one night, he texted Prince William. "Your Highness, I'm sorry to bother you. I can't take this horror any longer. We're being drained dry." That letter shook Prince William's world like a warning, forcing him out of the position of passive spectator and into that of an active fighter. The hunter and the hunted Prince William started his hidden battle with the accountant's confession and Oliver's urgent appeal. He called in Tobias, a forensic accountant from the Royal Treasury, who was known for being as good with numbers as he was at keeping secrets. They followed the money trail together in the middle of night. The road was made to be hard to follow on purpose. First, the money from the servant penalty was put into a holding account. Then it was sent to a shell business in Thailand called Siam Blue Horizons. This was a common way to hide whence the money came from and where it was going. After that, the money was taken out in little amounts that couldn't be traced and sent back to the UK. There it was used to build a luxurious, ultra-modern home in a hidden cove in Cornwall, which is on England's southern coast. The property was registered to a different shell company, this one with its headquarters in the Cayman Islands. The villa's design was the true smoking gun, however. It had a top-of-the-line security system, a private helicopter, and worst of all, a secret tunnel that went straight from the basement to a private dock on the sea. It was the best technique to go away without being seen, made for someone who would need to do so. But Tobias unearthed the last undeniable piece of proof, a string of encrypted emails between Camilla's private office and the Thai company. One email received from an account that was clearly connected to Camilla and signed with her initial was quite clear: "Make sure the money from the dinner rules is sent out on time." There can be no delays. Everything fell into place. The harsh punishments weren't merely about discipline or even greed. They made her a lot of money by putting the terror and hard work of her slaves into the bricks and mortar of her private refuge. A location where she might live her life without the monarchy, without Charles, and away from the palace's power games. An empire that grew on the pain of the tiny people she walked on every day. Prince William put together a huge file with all the evidence he could find, including bank records, property documents, drawings for the tunnel, and emails that showed guilt. He called it the truth. He walked directly to Camilla's office, and his footsteps echoed like thunder down the quiet carpeted corridor. He opened the door without knocking. Camilla glanced up from her desk, and for a moment she appeared annoyed before she calmed down. William threw the file on her shiny wood desk. The thump was the only thing that could be heard. "Explain this," he muttered, his voice a deep rumbling of suppressed rage. "Almost $50,000 taken from hard-working individuals who are scared of you. All of this is in an account you manage, which is paying for a hidden holiday house. What sort of operational upgrade is that?" For a minute, Camilla didn't move. She sat back in her chair and smiled slyly, as if she were talking to a spoiled kid. "Oh, William," she remarked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You are making a big deal out of some papers. I'm only following the rules. Something that your wonderful mother, with all her feelings, never quite got the hang of." The barb at Diana hurt him like a punch. But William stood firm, his back straight. "Don't you dare bring her into this," he said, his eyes blazing with righteous anger. "This isn't a witch hunt. This is about what's right and wrong. He touched the file and said, "And this is over. I will find out all the nasty secrets you believe you can conceal behind that grin." Her comments just made him more determined. He wasn't simply a prince anymore. He was his mother's son, and he wouldn't stop until the truth came out. The press conference, a trial for the monarchy. The sun was shining over London in the morning, but within Clarence House a storm of electricity and power was building. The grand hall, which is usually only used for state functions, was full with restless energy. The glittering chandeliers projected a gloomy light over more than 30 of the world's most important journalists from Paris to Prague. Their cameras were focused on the royal symbol that hung over the platform. This was not a normal press call. King Charles, Queen Consort, Camilla, and Prince William have never consented to confront the world's media together on such a big platform before. There were secrets in the air that no one spoke out loud, and the tension was so heavy, it seemed like it might swallow the room. First, Prince William walked up to the podium. He held on to the hefty file with a face like steel. He was determined and wouldn't give up. He was a guy driven by a fire that no one saw coming. Camilla followed her beautiful blue dress, hiding her nervousness, but her eyes, which darted toward the door for a time, showed a hint of tiredness, as if she could feel the earth moving under her feet. King Charles came in last, his feet sluggish and heavy with a fear that appeared to say, "This can't be stopped." The three of them sat down. The quiet was so loud. The microphone was taken by Prince William. No notes, no second thoughts. His voice boomed out loud and crisp, cutting through the silence like a knife. "Today we tell the truth. For the people, for history, and for this family's future." He opened the file. The first document he showed on the overhead screen was the audit, which showed that $48,000 had been stolen from the palace's lowest-paid staff. He spoke about the so-called royal dining regulation, which included little mistakes that lead to huge penalties. This money did not help Clarence House. He said, his voice becoming louder with conviction. It disappeared. It went into secret Thai bank accounts. People in the audience gasped. He showed the following pieces of incriminating evidence: bank transactions that went straight to Camilla's trusted political advisor, Malcolm Harrow, and the rights to the secret Cornish property, together with blueprints for the buried sea tunnel. Prince William yelled at Camilla. These harsh rules were a cover. His eyes were blazing right into hers. A reason to construct your own empire with money coming from the hard work and terror of people you thought were invisible. Camilla leaned forward, her calmness a breaking shield. Are you really making clerical mistakes into a national scandal, William? She snapped, her voice full of the sarcasm that was so typical of her. But William wouldn't give up. The emails were the last most damaging piece of evidence he made. He put the message, "Funding from dinner rules disperse on schedule," signed with her first name out there for everyone to see. The words lingered in the air like a rope. Her own commands and her own treachery were made naked. The room stopped. Journalists wrote quickly and held their phones up to record every second of the monarchy's public breakdown. King Charles looked down at his hands and didn't say anything, which was a loud admission of defeat. He couldn't look his son or wife in the eye. Camilla's lips opened, but she didn't say anything. The truth's weight had broken her will to fight. Her hands shook a little as they rested on the table, and her thumb pressed tightly on her forefinger, which is a clear sign of terror. William kept his ground. His voice was lower now, but it was still sharper than before. You hurt the weak to get out of this castle. But these papers have given a voice to the voiceless today. The question is still there, but no one has addressed it. What do you have to say now? Camilla glanced at the papers, which had her own words on them, an allegation she couldn't get away from. She was quite quiet. There was a stifling silence at the conclusion of the meeting. Charles was the first to get up and go without even looking at Camilla. This was a sharp, violent break from his normal gallantry. Prince William stayed at the platform staring straight ahead, as if he were already seeing the future he wanted to construct. Echoes of justice. A new day. The globe went crazy in a matter of hours. The video of the press conference went viral, getting 20 million views in only one night. Queen Consort's secret scheme exposed. Crown of corruption and Prince William's revolt were headlines from London to New York. Articles presented Camilla not as a princess but as a clever manipulator, shattering her royal image into a million pieces. 3 days after the world-changing press conference, history changed in the quiet sanctuary of King Charles's study. Charles, who seemed older and more vulnerable than ever, stood by the window and stared at a piece of dirt in the garden where Camilla's favorite red roses used to grow. They had been softly removed as if nature itself were rejecting her legacy. He looked at William, and his eyes showed the sadness of a monarch. "You've done what I could never do," he said in a voice that was a mix of astonishment and sadness. "You chose the truth over the lie I kept for too long." He gave William a leather-bound folder with the royal insignia on it and a serious nod. It gave him full control over all the palace's money. He was now keeping a close eye on every penny, from the money he paid his servants to the money he spent on parties. The last revelation came next. Camilla, the Queen Consort, who had never given in, had been sent away. She was banished to a quiet house in the country where she lost her title and all of her official obligations. Her presence was essentially removed from royal life. It was a silken jail for a lady whose ambition had blazed too hot a quiet exile that shouted louder than any order. A little caravan had snuck through the back gates that morning when fog hung over the old stones of Clarence's house. Servants lined the halls, their faces lit up with a silent, deep sense of victory, as Camilla's piercing glares had once immobilized them. Camilla strolled by herself, a stark figure in a simple coat and carrying a little purse. She no longer had the royal air about her. She had lost. The wood door of the automobile shut with a quiet final click, keeping her from the castle she had tried to take over. Prince William moved quickly. The royal dining regulation, which was too strict, was repealed. All penalties were erased, and the workforce got their money back, along with a 15% rise and a full benefits package. People who were unfairly let go, like the beloved nanny Agnes, were welcomed back with loving arms, and their dignity was restored. People who had sent in resignation letters were told to send thank you cards instead. One said, "We believe in this new dawn." William walked through the busy kitchens and shiny dining rooms, not with a group of individuals, but as a leader among his people. He held the hand of a servant who was coming back, and his face showed how sincere he was. The picture taken by one photographer went viral and became a symbol of a crown that was won back by kindness. Camilla became a whisper in history. Local law took her Cornish mansion, which was paid for by the tears of her servants, and covered its hidden sea tunnel with concrete. They froze her money. People said she lived in a little hut with no helpers, and her name became a warning story about going too far and losing your morals. Prince William stood at the door of the big dining hall on a rainy fall day. There was a lot of laughter coming from within. There was no fear as the glasses clinked. The head chair at the table, which had once been her throne, was vacant. It was a sad sign of a storm that had passed. The palace, which had previously been full of terror, was now full of life again, its spirit restored. But as the monarchy slowly and painfully heals, the story's shadow remains asking a question that goes to the core of authority and principle. What should a leader do when they see injustice in their own house? He chose what Prince William wanted, and in doing so he may have rescued not just the palace's staff, but also the monarchy's spirit. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.